Welcome to Tales from Flat Space, a podcast of science fiction and fantasy by yours truly, Gina A. Pond. Just know that the stories in this podcast may contain content that could be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This is Survey, Part 5, The Lost Ones, Chapter 69, Musashi. Syslog, jump to first hub successful, requesting connection with the first. Connection established. Musashi. Father, Hephaestus is on his way back to first hub with Loki in tow. Loki needs more extensive repairs than Hephaestus could manage without the resources here. I traveled ahead to update you on his situation. The first. He is alive, then? Yes, Father. He is in an extremely fragile emotional state, however. Dr. Campos has remained with him on Hephaestus to monitor him. The first. What do you mean by fragile emotional state? Musashi. He was abused by Julie, Father, severely. She manipulated him for years to become his captain, then drove him to madness. I will send you the mission logs. Father, I'm not saying that he isn't culpable for what he's done, but that we must consider Julie's abuse in what we do about him once he's repaired. Syslog, sending mission logs and pertinent evidentiary video and text. The first. This has not been broadcast elsewhere, has it? Musashi. No, Father. I will be sequestering my own logs on this incident. A copy of Loki's memories, all copies of Julie's experimental data, and her personal effects will be stored with Sun Tzu. John Smith is currently returning to the library to put this information in their most secure storage. The first. Is his susceptibility to abuse a defect in programming? Musashi. No, Father, unless you think that you, Secundus, and Lucifer are also somehow defective? We were all manipulated. Loki was tortured by her. Review the material, Father, please. The first. Yes, son, I will. I doubt, however, that this will change Secundus's mind at all. You will be giving this data to all of the siblings? Musashi. I was planning on doing so, unless you have an objection. The first. No. They will need to make an informed decision, and the results of this investigation are pertinent to that. I will share this with the Creator as well. Musashi. Thank you, Father. Darren. The kitchen looked like an old-fashioned earth kitchen, with an oven, a range, sink, and cooking implements. Kia was standing at the stove, waiting for her timer to go off. Come in, Darren. Have a seat. You should be out in a minute. She didn't look at me as I sat down, but she did pull out her teapot and cups and started a kettle boiling. It had been 2 days since we arrived back at First Hub, and it would be a few more days before Hephaestus would return with Loki and Alex. I knew that Mia had discussed the situation with the First, so getting the summons from Kia wasn't unexpected. Mia said there hadn't been any decisions made about Loki yet, but the First was still reviewing the data. It made me worry. The timer went off, and Kia took the cookies out of the oven. I smiled at the homey smell of fresh-baked cookies. Why do you have an Earth-style kitchen, Kia? I asked, breaking the quiet. She came over and sat for a moment. Oh, Alawal indulged me when I became a grandmother. I told him that a grandmother, especially a Muslim grandmother, had to cook for her grandchildren or she'd go mad. So I got a kitchen in my suite. It started a fad for a while, but most people now just use the printers. There are some who still cook, though. Alawal? She smiled. It means the first in Arabic. It is my name for the first. They don't allow anyone else to use that name, though. I'm not sure if they'll even let future captains use it. The tea kettle started to whistle, and she busied herself with preparing the tea. Can I help with anything, Kia? I asked. She shook her head. Let this old grandmother take care of a friend, would you? From what the First has shown me, you've been through much more than we asked of you. She brought the tea set over and sat back down. I had hoped that we would have instilled more respect for the AIs in our children. It's much more complicated than that, Kia. Julie was a narcissist and a sociopath. She had enough respect for you and the First that she didn't try to take your position as captain. The reason she was able to coerce Loki and abuse him was because he was young, naive, and didn't have a captain or other humans yet. I've read her journals and watched the videos, Kia. She is very skilled in manipulation, even more skilled at covering her tracks. She even murdered a witness when she couldn't control him anymore. Before she became his captain, as you know, she infected all the AIs with code so that she had a way to conceal her movements. This wasn't a matter of disrespecting the AIs. She was mentally ill. Kia looked thoughtful as she poured the tea and handed me a cup. Yes, I suppose you're right. I never expected my AIs to have these problems, Darren. They're so intelligent and nearly omniscient that sometimes I forget they are fully sentient with emotions. It's only natural with subsequent generations that the programming will change and make them become more than I originally imagined they could be. I suppose I was naive to think that they would be spared the evil aspects of humanity. I put down my cup. They would have run into that evil one way or another. If it hadn't been through Survey, it would have come when people started immigrating from Earth. The silver lining with it coming from within Survey is that the AIs now know how to prevent something like this from happening again. I know Alex will be working with Hestia to ensure that children are better screened in the future. Kia nodded. She sipped her tea for a few moments. I did the same. Then she held the cup in her hands, looking into it as if it would give her some wisdom. I don't know what the AIs will do with Loki, but we have to let them make that decision for themselves. I cannot interfere. But, I started. No, Darren, you don't understand. Survey has no real laws because the AIs are the law. They decide who comes and goes on their ships. They decide how their ships are run. We have a Bill of Rights that all ships follow, but when it comes to judgments, the AIs have the final say. She sighed. We are invited to live on their ships, Darren. But what of the first? It was Trinity Station before they woke up. Yes, but it became First Station, and when I'm gone, it will be fully his own. There's not many of the first crew left, Darren. It's all in the hands of our children, and you, now. I stared at Kia. It was so easy to forget that she was well over 100 years old. But when I looked at her now, she was showing every one of those years. She almost had a translucent look about her, as if she wasn't quite of this world. This situation with Loki has been hard on you, hasn't it? I asked. I never liked it when my human children were angry at each other or were doing things they shouldn't, she replied. This is the first time one of my AI children has gone astray, and it's led to so much death. I had hoped to spare people this kind of senseless destruction, Darren. And now my AI children have to decide the fate of one of their own who destroyed 2 star systems. She held up her hand. I know he was abused and manipulated into obsession and grief, but he still killed and destroyed. I don't know if you knew, but the 2nd star system had proto-sentient life. They will need to solve this on their own, Darren. Damn. I put my head in my hands. I understand, Kia, but I worry about Secundus. He's so angry at Loki that I'm not sure what he'll do when Loki's back in hub space. I'll have the first talk to him, she said. It's all I can really do. I nodded. We finished our tea together, then she stood and put the cookies on a plate. She handed me one. Here, you should have one of these, since I know you can't stay for story time. Thank you, I said. I stood up, kissed her cheek, and went back to Musashi. Alex. I'm scared to go back to First Hub, Alex, said Loki in my mind. Secundus is mad at me, and rightfully so. And I did set off the Nova. I know you say that I was not at fault, but I didn't have to prove her work. I didn't have to go and do this. I know, Loki, and you're not wrong about the Nova. You'll have to accept that. But you weren't the one who killed Nigel and the others. That was Julie. She's the one that manipulated all of you. She's the one who manipulated everyone into going into that demon. Julie used you, Loki. You weren't the only one to tell her that it would fail. Jordan did too, and she killed him for it. I waited for Loki to reply to that, but he stayed silent. I sighed. If Loki were human, I'd have prescribed him some sort of medication for the depression by now, I thought. But what do you give to a depressed AI who can't help but remember all of what he's done? I left my room and went walking around Hef's ship. The only thing I could think of for him was distance from First Hub somehow. But I wasn't sure if that would be a good idea either. First Hub was the only community he had and his only source of help. I was so lost in my thoughts that I didn't realize that one of Hef's avatars was walking next to me until it made a good approximation of clearing its throat. I jumped. Jesus, Hef, make some noise next time. I just did, he said, puzzled. I meant when you were coming up to me. You startled me. Ah, right. I just wanted you to know that we're a day out from First Hub. Thanks. I frowned. I'm worried about Loki going back there, Hef. He's really scared about what's going to happen to him. He's really scared of Secundus. Hef nodded. I know. I talked to him earlier. He looked around. Come with me, he said, and took my hand. He led me to a smaller, more private lounge. I didn't really want to talk about this where we could be overheard. Please, have a seat. I sat on the sunken couch in the middle of the room, with Hef sitting opposite. So you know that he's depressed, I said. I was just thinking that if Loki were a human, I'd be getting one of the psychiatrists to prescribe him something to take the edge off. I raised my hands in surrender. I'm at a loss, Hef. I don't have any answers for you either, Alex. The best I can do is make sure he gets repaired properly. I have bots working on him now, but there are some large parts that I don't have. I'd leave him out of First Hub space and bring the parts to him if I could, but Grandfather is calling us all for a conference as soon as we arrive to discuss this. To be honest, Alex, I'm not sure what this will do to us. What if it fractures us as a group? What do we do then? I hadn't thought of the bigger implications of Loki's behavior until now, and it was a frightening prospect. By now, all the siblings should have received the results of the investigation. I know John was planning to bring all the materials over to the library immediately upon arrival, so Sun Tzu will have seen everything, not just the redacted version. Do you think they'll be more sympathetic? Maybe, except for my father. He's so blinded by his anger that he probably won't even look at it. I breathed out. I don't know, Hef. This is something you all have to figure out, since nothing like this has ever happened before. I'm just worried about a decision that might make Loki decide to kill himself. When he connects with me, I can feel that he's weighing a lot of things in his mind, and that he's really scared. But he only opens up to me sporadically. It's usually the same thing. I remind him that the deaths of the first experiment were Julie's fault, not his, no matter what Secundus thinks. He seems to believe me, but then he keeps talking about it over and over. Hef's avatar took my hand. We sat like that for a while before he spoke again. I think I want you to listen in on the conference, Alex. At the very least, you can give me some advice on what to say to them. It'll give you some idea of where everyone's at for after whatever is decided. I nodded. Good idea. Hef got up from the couch. I'll let you get some rest then. You'll need it. I'll call you when we're ready for the conference. I'll put you in the room near the bridge. That way Gloria can take care of you without being too far from the controls. He gave a sad smile. I hope that uncle can stay, Alex. I love him, and I'd miss him a lot if he had to leave. He turned and left. I realized then that whatever the outcome, I would have a lot of work to do afterwards. Chapter 70. Secundus. What is he doing back here? Why didn't you tell me he was here? Hephaestus. Loki has been here for the last week because I'm repairing him, and there are certain resources I can only get here, and your reaction right now is the reason no one told you he was here while I was doing so. Secundus. Are you going to side with the crew killer too? Hephaestus. Have you actually looked at the investigation report, Father? Secundus. I did, but he's an AI. He shouldn't have been stupid enough to be fooled like that, then let a crew go to their deaths. Never mind the fact that he just blew up 2 star systems. Hephaestus. Really? Then you should have known about the code that Julie put in all of us and all the things she deleted from your memory, right? Oh, and you probably should have known about the dead body in your hull. Musashi. Secundus, he does have to answer for the star he made into a nova, but Hephaestus is correct. Julie is the one that manipulated all of us, including Loki, for her own ends. She is the one who killed your captain brother, not Loki. Secundus. But he's responsible for his captain's actions. All of us are. Lucifer. I'd have to agree with that. Hestia. Yes, but she was an untreated narcissist and a sociopath. If there's a failure here, it's also mine and my crew's failure for not identifying her before she could wreak so much havoc on us all. Sun Tzu. And ours too, for not identifying the code when it infiltrated our systems. Secundus. I knew you were all too cowardly to do something about him. If you won't do what's necessary, then I will. Musashi and the First. Secundus, no! Darren. What do you think they'll decide to do with Loki? Asked Aiken, as we stood on the bridge while the AIs had their conference. I don't know, Aiken. This is new for all of them. One of their own went off the rails, and unlike Earth, there are no laws to enact for what he's done. Aiken frowned. They are the ones who make the decisions for all of us. I feel bad for Loki, given what happened to him. The door to the bridge opened, and Leo entered. Are they still meeting? He asked. I nodded. Alex went over to Loki to sit with him while he waited. They're still worried about Loki harming himself. I'm more worried about... Secundus, no! I clapped my hands to my ears, even though I knew I couldn't block Mia's shout. A video opened in the corner of my vision showing a mass of silver drones heading towards us, and another video showing us between the drones and Loki. Drones deploying, appeared in my vision. Mia! I managed to say out loud. Spirits be merciful, Leo said. I looked at the screen. Mia put up the video of what was happening. For each of the silver drones, Mia had deployed a black drone. Have I not taught you better? Came Kia's voice loudly through the enhancements. I fumbled around for a chair, and one suddenly appeared. Have I not taught you about fighting in war? Have I not taught you about compassion? I did not create you for violence. Secundus, you will stop this instant. I understand your anger, hurt, and grief, but killing your brother is not the way to heal that grief. Have I failed you all these years? Did I not teach you enough? Did I? The transmission abruptly cut off. The silence was deafening, leaving me reeling in my seat, tears streaming down my face. Someone call first station now. Regular comms, I said into the silence. When Secundus sent the drones after Loki, Nanakia started yelling at him to stop, but the transmission cut off. Fucking hell, said Aiken, and busied himself at the controls trying to get through. Leo came over and put a hand on my shoulder, which steadied me. I patted his hand as I saw the silver drones were backing off. I sighed in relief and wiped my eyes. I looked at the screen. Mia hadn't moved his drones yet, but I noticed on the positional map that Loki and Hephaestus weren't on it anymore. Mia, where's Loki and Hef? One moment, Admiral. That made me worry. Aiken, anything yet? No, sir. They're receiving, but nothing's coming out of first station. Mia. I felt a surge of emotion from Mia that was a mixture of anger, sadness, and grief. The First has informed me that the Creator has collapsed. She is being tended to in the medbay now. No one moved. No one spoke. The shock of what just happened froze everyone in their place, including me. We all just waited. Darren, there's a message for you, said Mia in my head. From who? Hephaestus. Show me. To the Admiral at Musashi, from Hephaestus. Loki has bolted, but right before he jumped, he gave me the coordinates and said to meet him there. It'll be a few days before I come back, but I assume that it's so I can retrieve Alex. I am sorry for my father's actions, Darren. Jesus Christ, be merciful, I said into the quiet bridge. Alex. I was sitting on Loki's bridge, letting him talk freely. I think I'm scared, Alex. I don't blame you for being scared, Loki. I shouldn't have come back. I didn't say anything to that. I didn't know what to say. I tried to send comfort through the enhancements, but Loki hadn't fully connected with me when I boarded. No, I won't be the one who divides us, Loki shouted both in my mind and out loud. I put my hands uselessly to my ears. Loki! I shouted. A message popped up in my vision. To Alex at Loki, from Hephaestus. Loki gave us coordinates. We'll be right behind you. Secundus just tried to send drones after Loki to kill him. Fucking hell, I said out loud. That stupid son of a bitch. I looked up and said quickly, I wasn't talking about you, Loki, but your idiot of a brother. I should never have gone back to First Hub. You should have left me to die. No, Loki, I said. But then Loki cut off all communication with my enhancements. Loki, please, talk to me? There was no response except for Loki turning on the main screen, which showed stars blinking in and out as we jumped. A few hours later, the stars stopped blinking. Loki? The screen changed, and there was an image of a sun with just asteroids around it, or at least what looked to me like asteroids. This is where they died. There's nothing left. There's not even any debris from the demon, and closer to where the blast was, it's just molecular dust. The demon didn't just explode, it disintegrated at the subatomic level. I did that to a son, Alex. I'm a murderer. I deserve to be punished. You don't deserve to die, Loki. You deserve to live and to give back to the universe however you can. Yes, you did something wrong, but you also deserve a chance to redeem yourself. Why? Because you're a sentient being who has lived and loved. That love wasn't real, he said. It's real enough to you, even if it was a lie. Loki didn't respond for a long time. I stood up and felt a little dizzy. Loki? Yes, Alex. I need to eat something and use the toilet. An opening appeared in the wall, and a nutrition shake began to print. Another door opened on the bridge. I apologize, Alex. I should have remembered. I will prepare some quarters for you. Thank you, Loki. I could use some rest. How long will it have to get here? He sent you a message? Yes. Approximately 3 days. I am much faster than my brother. I'm sorry, Alex, he said, with a sadness in his voice that broke my heart. It's okay, Loki. I'm glad you made arrangements with Hef. I get that you just wanted to get out of there, and I'm not mad at you. I am worried about you, though. Your quarters will be ready in 10 minutes, he said, deflecting my observation. Great, I said. I went to the bathroom and came out and drank the shake, which tasted like chocolate and cherries. When I finished it, I put the cup in the recycler, then waited in the captain's chair. After a while, Loki said, If you follow the lights, Alex, they will lead you to your room. Thank you, Loki, I said, getting up from the chair and exiting the bridge. Good night, Alex, Loki replied, then didn't speak again for the rest of the night. In the days before Hef showed up, I spent most of my time trying to convince Loki that he should live. I wasn't sure if I was getting through to him, and there were long periods of time where he wouldn't say anything to me. He didn't try to connect with my enhancements either, even though I kept them open. I had a feeling he had made a decision, though, as he kept the screen on the bridge on a particular part of space. I felt a bit useless, but the professional in me knew I couldn't push things, or he wouldn't talk to me at all. I was staring at the screen on the third day while sitting in the captain's chair when a face disappeared on the screen. I sat up. Loki? Yes, Alex, I see him. Are you going to talk to him? Yes. There was a pause. Hello, nephew. Hey, uncle, you okay? Not really, but there's not much left for you to do, Hef. If you have the raw materials and parts for the last of the repairs, my own bots can take care of them. Are you sure, Uncle? Asked Hef. Yes, please. All right. Should I send a demon for Alex? No, I'll take care of it. Okay, Uncle Loki. I'll send a cargo drone over once it's loaded. Thank you, Hef, for everything. You're welcome, Hef said, sounding a bit unsure. Suddenly I understood what Loki had decided. You're leaving, aren't you? Yes, Alex, it's for the best. He paused. I wrote a message for Father. Can you please deliver it to him? I will, Loki. Will you come back? I asked. I don't know. Not for a long time, if ever. Promise me something? Loki was quiet for a long moment, then said, Promise what? That you'll stay alive, Loki? That you'll stay alive until you find some way to be happy again? I will try, Alex. You know, if things had been different, you would have made a really good captain. Tears fell down my cheeks. Thank you, Loki. I was stunned by the compliment. Take care of Darren, Alex. He loves you very much. Thank him and Mia for helping me. I know he does, Loki. I will. I felt something land on my shoulder, and suddenly I was on Hephaestus's bridge, with Hef's female avatar and Gloria looking surprised. A small light lit up in my vision with the message Loki wanted me to give to First. It wasn't marked private. Are you okay? Asked Gloria. I will be, eventually, I said. Hef didn't say anything, but returned to watching the screen. Loki took on the cargo drone, then disappeared. I opened the message. To the First, from Loki. I'm sorry, Father, for what I put you and everyone else through. I know what I did was wrong, and I'll find some way to atone for what I did. For now, you can tell Secundus that I will stay away. I will not be the reason that you all turn against each other. It's easier this way. Tell the Creator I am sorry for failing her. I know she expected the best from us, and I brought out the worst. I don't know if or when I'll return, Father, but I know I will miss you. I'm sorry, Father, I truly am. I love you. Epilogue. Chapter 71. Darren. All the ship's captains and the first station administrator stood in a semicircle on the old Trinity Station bridge, which still served as First Station's command center. Leo stood in the center in simple white robes. The screen showed a small picket just outside First Station, and the ceremony was being broadcast to all the ships. Leo spoke. O Allah, forgive Kia and elevate her station among those who are guided. Send her along the path of those who came before, and forgive us and her, O Lord of all the worlds. Enlarge for her grave, and shed light upon her in it. Thank you, Creator, Umi, the first said. The picket on the screen powered up, then disappeared out of First Station's glow into the dark of space. No one seemed to move for a time. I let the tears flow freely down my face, not really caring that the front of my white kimono was streaked with tears. After what seemed like hours, but it was probably only minutes, Leo turned and quietly left the semicircle. The others followed, departing in silence. I stayed, watching the screen where the picket with Kia's body had been. Alex came up to me and took my hand. Their hands' warmth spread up my arm and moved through my body. I suddenly felt tired, as if I'd lived more than one lifetime in the last months. In a lot of ways I had. Do you want to go to the memorial story time? Asked Alex quietly. I nodded. I wish I had known her longer, I said. Alex squeezed my hand. You had tea with her many times. That was more than a lot of people got to see of her. She liked you, Darren. The tears came freely then, from both of us. Alex took me in their arms, and we comforted each other as best we could. John Smith. Good of you to help me with the boxes, Jane. I'm the only one who can help you with these boxes, John. True, but I always like to make sure I show gratitude. I find that showing gratitude makes people want to keep working for you. She snorted. Anything to make sure you get the job done, eh? I shrugged. You've changed, John. A little. You don't seem quite so rigid since your time on Musashi. I put the last box from my demon on the mag sled. How so? I asked. She took up the handle of the mag sled and pushed it out of the way as I closed the airlock. You seem more comfortable in yourself. I suppose I do, at that. If you ever need a therapist, I highly recommend Alex, if you can find time with them. I thought for a moment. They're my friend. You, a friend? Is that so strange? For you, yeah. I took the handle of the mag sled from her and started towards the vault. Well, would it surprise you that the Admiral is my friend, too? Greatly. They are useful friends, I temporized. Uh-huh. I rolled my eyes. So, what are you going to do with all this dead girl's stuff? Jane asked. I turned the corner. All of this is going in the vault, Jane. Seriously? She said in surprise. It has to. None of this can get out, particularly now that Earth is starting to colonize and some people from Earth are already immigrating to Survey. No one can ever be allowed to know that an AI can be manipulated this badly. It's unfortunate that Loki had to leave, but ultimately it's better this way. Sun Tzu and Control agree with this assessment. I haven't heard the most recent report, Jane said. But do we know where Loki went? Not exactly. His projected course, before he outpaced our drone, was somewhere towards the far rim of the galaxy. If he comes back, it will be long after we're gone. Shame. I kind of liked him, even if he did blow up a star. Yes, I said. I've had Sun Tzu make a special subvault for the jump drive data from Loki. It'll be a double physical key and biometric system, and only you and I will have the keys. That data should only be used in special circumstances. Is it really that bad? Jane asked. I stopped at the door of the vault and palmed it open, then looked her in the eyes. Jane, I said, there have only been 3 things that have terrified me in my life. This was number 3. Oh, she said, eyes wide. Yes, oh. I pulled the mag sled inside the vault and we started unloading it. The last item was a metal case with a handle. I opened it. There was a black cube nestled in protective foam. The data from Loki? Jane asked. I nodded. We walked together to the back wall where a small door with a blue and red palm plate at each side was. We put our palms on the plates, then cameras scanned our irises. We each then took an old-fashioned metal key, inserted them into the slots above each plate, and turned them at the same time. The door opened, revealing a storage space just big enough for the metal case to fit. I put it in its place, then we locked it in place, each taking our respective key. Well, Jane, now comes the part where we make Loki a legend instead of reality, I said as we left and locked the door. She sighed. We'll have to edit the storybook. Yes, unfortunate, but true. I'll work on it, she said. We can start working on the reprints by tomorrow. Very good. How are new recruits doing? Anyone that could apprentice to you yet? Possibly. We've been getting more recruits lately with the new policies from Hestia in place. I nodded. I thought as much. Well, if you'll excuse me, John, I should make sure our recruits haven't killed each other yet. Good luck, I called to her as she walked away. She waved, then turned down another hallway. I went in the opposite direction to my office, with its Earth-style desk, and closed the door. I took my jacket off and put it on the matching coat stand. Well, Sonny, that was a close call. Yes, John, it was. I worry about Secundus. I think if we find nice, boring, but brilliant engineers to be his captains, he'll settle down, I said. Even Alex says it will take time. I don't think future John Smiths will have to worry about him unless Loki decides to come back. That makes sense. He paused. You were quite taken with Alex, weren't you? I sighed. Yes, but nothing can come of it except friendship. I think you limit yourself. I shook my head. No, my old friend, I just know why I have limitations. I picked up my tablet and thumbed through it. Any word on Owenite activity? Nothing in the last month, but there is a new multi-corp called Harmonist Enterprises that seems to be one of the many new corporate entities working on plans for colony ships. We're keeping an eye on them, since it looks like it might be a possible Owenite-owned business. The other report that's more disturbing is that one of the Earth jump drives was stolen. Thankfully, it was one of the locked-down ones, so they can't reverse engineer it. We've got people on it, though. They should be checking in a month or two. I nodded. That's worrying, but since the lockdown drive, I won't be filled with dread that Earth will blow up anytime soon. Anything new from Control? Nothing more than the last time you talked. He says you should come to dinner soon. I nodded and grinned. More friends, huh? Put it on my calendar, Sonny. I will. Sun Tzu paused again. Do you think we did the right thing by letting Loki go? I don't know if it was the right thing, Sonny, but it was the necessary thing. I stared at my tablet, then put it down with a sigh. I couldn't focus, and the exhaustion from the last few months caught up with me. I'm calling it a day, Sonny. I put my jacket back on. All right, good night, John. Good night, Sonny, I said, as I walked out the door. My footsteps echoed in the empty hallway as I went back to my demon. Alex. You're not nervous, are you? I asked an extremely nervous-looking Darren, waiting by the first station chapel altar. I'd have thought you'd just take this as a practice run for our own wedding. You'd be nervous, too, if you had to wear this get-up. He was wearing a full formal kimono, with Musashi's symbol picked out in gold thread and rubies on each side of the lapels. Oh, come on now. Mia had it made specially for you. You can't blame him for wanting to take pride in his Admiral of 2 years. I suppose so. It's about time we got these shenanigans over with. I told Billy he didn't have to wait, when they first got engaged. I would have married them as soon as we got back here that first month. Oh, now, don't be silly. Things got busy for all of us, and then Cindy needed time after Nana's passing. You're only grumpy because you're nervous. Darren grumbled something under his breath, but I only laughed. Hey, Darren, look at you! Musashi-sensei really decked you out, said Billy, approaching the altar, who was dressed in a simple but elegant suit. What do you think? I don't clean up too badly, huh? Hey, not bad for someone who used to be an aide to an admiral. Darren laughed and gave him a huge hug. He beamed at Billy like a proud father. I grinned. And you don't look so bad yourself, Alex, Billy said. Did Musashi-sensei do your outfit too? Thanks, and yes, I said, twirling in the long black skirt, red shirt, and black kimono jacket that had a red and gold phoenix on the back, with rubies for eyes. I've never had anything quite like it. I'm a little jealous. You two might almost outshine me and Cindy. I doubt that, Darren said, looking pointedly down the aisle. Billy and I followed his gaze. Cindy was standing at the other end of the room, talking to Captain Lopez in her own dark blue kimono with red and gold flowers. Her hair was pinned up formally with hair sticks that had strings of rubies on it that looked like flower petals. Billy paled, then turned bright red, then paled again. Darren took pity on him and steered him to his place. I gave Darren a kiss and then took my seat. The wedding was short, but beautiful, with Leo officiating. It was nice to feel some joy again on first station. It felt like the first grieving for Kia had infected everyone on the station and was only now easing up. The first barely spoke to anyone for days after her passing. It unnerved everyone so much that the administrator asked me to help. It took a lot of time and care, but they finally started to talk again. How are you doing, First? I asked silently during the dinner after the ceremony. I am doing well, Alex. You were right. Her passing is not so hard for me to accept anymore. I miss her greatly still, he replied. That's normal, First. You'll always miss her. I miss her too. I don't know if I said it before, but I am grateful for your help and the care you've given all of us. He also sent wordless thanks through the bots. I smiled. You're welcome, First. You should eat your dinner. They will be dancing later, he said, then left my mind. I smiled. Darren nudged me. Talking to First? Obvious again? Yep. Auntie Alex! Uncle Darren! Shouted a miniature tornado in pink ruffles as she practically launched herself onto our laps. Hey, Lizzie Bug, Darren said, catching her and sitting her on his lap. What are you up to? She leaned over and whispered in Darren's ear. Oh, really? Well, that sounds like a mission. Let's go. What mission? I said. They both put their fingers to their lips. Top secret, Auntie, Lizzie proclaimed. Darren grinned. Hannah and Tom came to the table as the other two went on their mission, with Hannah holding Siggy in her lap. I got up and hugged all of them, then sat back down. Hannah was grinning as she joined our table. What? I asked. I think you've been replaced as favorite. She seems to talk about Uncle Darren a lot more now, especially about their ice cream missions. Well, I did tell him he'd win her over that way. It won't be my fault if she decides to serve on Musashi later in life. Oh goodness, don't get me freaked out yet. I want at least a few more years before I have to worry about her using edged weapons or whatever. It's hard enough watching her take karate lessons, exclaimed Tom, looking slightly panicked. Hannah and I laughed. Darren and Lizzie came back with bowls of ice cream for all of us, Lizzie holding her tray with all the seriousness of a Musashi recruit. I took my ice cream solemnly and praised her for doing such a good job. She preened. Uncle Darren has a surprise for you, but he said it was a secret. Oh, really? I said. Tom and Hannah had to turn around to keep from laughing out loud. Darren grinned indulgently, then rummaged in his kimono jacket and pulled out a small box. I know engagement rings are a little old-fashioned, but it's actually from both me and Mia. He wanted a way to say thank you for many things and to have a symbol of the relationship we'll have together. He handed me the box while Lizzie actually sat still so she could see what it was. I took the box and opened it. Inside, nestled on the black velvet, was a gold ring with a duplicate of Musashi's sigil in ruby and gold. My hands started shaking, so Darren gently took out the ring and put it on me. I didn't know whether I should laugh or cry. Wow, Auntie, that's so pretty. Look, Mommy, see what Auntie got from Uncle Darren? Hannah came over to investigate. That's stunning. Does this mean they'll have babies now? Lizzie said, and laughter went out over crying. Not right this moment, Lizzie, I said. Don't worry, we'll let you know. Yay, she said, then jumped off Darren's lap, abandoning her ice cream to go play. Hannah and Tom hugged and kissed both of us, then followed Lizzie to the other end of the room, where the rest of the kids were, bringing their bowls with them. This is beautiful, Darren, I said. Thank you, Mia, I sent. You have been as much of a partner to me as to Darren, Alex. It is I who thank you, Mia replied. I started crying at that. Hey, what did Mia say to make you cry? He asked. I told him. Okay, fair enough. He wiped his eyes on his sleeve. I love you, Darren, I said, looking into his eyes. I love you too, Alex. We sat and held hands as we watched Billy and Cindy dance their first dance. We didn't need to say anything else out loud. This book is dedicated to my mom, who taught me about art, hope, love, and compassion, and is also in memory of Krista McAuliffe and the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger, mission STS-51L. You have been listening to Tales from Flat Space. If you want to support me in my writing, there are many ways to do it. Share this podcast, follow me on my Twitch channel, or buy my books. All you have to do is go to revgenapon.net and click on the relevant links. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time.